The galaxy had seen countless species rise and fall through the ages, but none had prepared the universe for humanity, and certainly not for someone like Amber Rodriguez. She walked into the council chamber on Station Kepler 9 with the kind of confidence that made ancient civilizations question their entire existence, and every ambassador from every corner of known space suddenly forgot why they were there. Amber was not a soldier or a diplomat, or even a scientist in the traditional sense, but she was the first human to be assigned as a cultural liaison to the Interstellar Federation, and that decision would change everything. The Zinthari ambassador, a being of pure crystalline structure that had existed for over 3,000 years, actually flickered when she passed by, which his aides later claimed was impossible, since Zinthari did not have biological responses to anything. She wore simple clothes by human standards, just dark pants and a fitted jacket. But the way she carried herself made it look like she was dressed for conquest, and in a way she was. The council leader, a massive creature called Vortan from the planet Hygros with 4 arms and scales that could deflect plasma fire, cleared his throat, which sounded like rocks grinding together. He began to explain the situation, and his deep voice rumbled through the chamber. But halfway through his sentence he stopped because Amber had smiled at something on her datapad, and that smile made him lose his train of thought completely. The issue at hand was simple enough, or at least it should have been. But several mining colonies on the edge of Federation space had gone dark, and 3 different species were claiming the territory, and tensions were rising fast. Amber listened while leaning against a pillar in a way that should have been disrespectful, but somehow was not. And when Vortan finished speaking, she simply said that humans had a saying about situations like this. Everyone waited, and the silence stretched out because beings from 100 worlds had suddenly become very interested in what this one human female thought about intergalactic politics. She said the saying was about not putting all your eggs in one basket, and then she had to explain what eggs were, and what a basket was, and by the time she finished, half the council was confused, and the other half was completely fascinated. The Threnody representative, a floating mass of tentacles and bioluminescent patterns, actually changed colors to what their species displayed during courtship rituals, and his 3 assistants had to pull him back to his designated space. Amber suggested something radical, which was that instead of fighting over the colonies, maybe they should figure out why the colonies went dark in the first place and work together to solve that problem. The room erupted in debate because cooperation was not something that came naturally to species who had spent millennia trying to prove they were superior to each other. But then Amber did something that would become legendary across 1,000 worlds, and she laughed. Not a polite diplomatic laugh, but a real, genuine laugh that seemed to suggest she found the entire situation absurdly amusing, and somehow, that laugh cut through centuries of political tension like a hot knife through butter. Vortan found himself laughing too, even though his species had not developed humor until they met humans. And suddenly the entire mood shifted. Within an hour, Amber had convinced 6 different species to form a joint investigation team, and she would lead it personally. The expedition left 3 days later on a ship called the Wanderer, which was a human vessel that made other species uncomfortable because it was designed with the assumption that things would go wrong and humans would have to fix them with whatever was available. Amber brought along a small team including 2 other humans named Carlos Mendoza and Lisa Zhang, who seemed far too relaxed for people heading into potentially dangerous territory. The other species representatives included a Vrexian warrior named Korthax, who stood 8 feet tall and had enough weapons integrated into his armor to level a small city. There was also a delicate moth, like being called Whispersong, from the planet Lumina, who communicated through light patterns and whose species was known for their ability to sense emotional states. The journey to the dark colonies took 5 standard cycles, and during that time something strange happened. Korthax, who had won over 400 battles and had never shown weakness, started following Amber around like a lost pet, and when anyone asked why, he simply said that human females possessed a quality that made warriors want to be better than they were. Whispersong spent hours in Amber's presence, and her light patterns became more vibrant and complex, and she later told others that being near Amber felt like being close to a star. Even Carlos and Lisa seemed affected, though they hid it better, and there were moments when they would just stop and stare at her like they were seeing her for the first time. Amber seemed completely unaware of the effect she had on everyone around her. Or maybe she was just so used to it that she did not think it was remarkable. When they reached the first dark colony, they found it abandoned but not destroyed. And there were signs that everyone had left in a hurry. But without panic, Amber walked through the empty streets with her hands in her pockets while everyone else had weapons drawn, and she stopped at a small dwelling where a family had clearly lived. She picked up a toy from the ground, something that resembled a stuffed animal, and she held it gently while looking around. Then she said something that made everyone stop and think. She said that whoever or whatever had caused the evacuation had not wanted to hurt anyone, because if they had wanted violence, there would be bodies. The team continued searching and found similar scenes in 2 more colonies, and each time Amber noticed small details that others missed. At the 3rd colony, they finally found evidence of what had happened. There was a message carved into a wall in a dozen different languages, and it simply said that a great wave was coming, and those who wished to survive should seek higher ground. Amber stood in front of the message for a long time, and when she finally spoke, her voice was soft, but everyone heard her clearly. She said that this was not an invasion or an attack, but a warning, and whoever left these messages was trying to save lives, not take them. The question was what kind of wave and higher ground in space did not make conventional sense. Lisa suggested that maybe it was metaphorical, but Carlos shook his head and said that you did not evacuate 3 colonies for a metaphor. Korthax wanted to investigate further into the sector, but Whisper Song suddenly flashed a pattern that meant danger, and everyone froze. Then the ship sensors went crazy and alarms started blaring because something massive was approaching. Fast Amber ran to the bridge with everyone following, and when she saw the readings, her eyes went wide. A wave of dark matter was moving through space, and it was consuming everything in its path, not destroying but transforming, and anything caught in it would be converted into something else entirely. The wave would hit Federation space in less than 10 cycles, and billions would be affected. Everyone started talking at once about defenses and evacuations and military responses, but Amber held up her hand, and the room went silent. She said they could not fight this, and they could not run from it, but maybe they could redirect it. The others thought she was crazy, but she explained that dark matter responded to gravitational fields, and if they could generate a strong enough field, they could bend the wave's path away from populated space. The problem was that no single species had technology powerful enough to create that kind of gravitational field, but together they might. Amber spent the next 2 cycles working with representatives from every species in the Federation, and she somehow convinced them all to share their most advanced technology. She did it not through threats or political maneuvering, but by making each species believe that they were essential to saving the galaxy. The Zinthari provided their crystalline matrix technology, and the Vrexians offered their quantum generators, and the humans contributed their ability to improvise and make things work that should not work. Even the Threnodi, who normally kept to themselves, provided their understanding of space-time manipulation in 5 cycles. They had built a massive gravitational array positioned at the edge of Federation space. Amber stood on the command platform as they activated it, and every species leader watched through live feeds. The dark matter wave hit the gravitational field, and for a moment nothing happened. Then slowly, impossibly, the wave began to bend, and its path shifted away from Federation space and toward empty regions where it would harm no one. Cheers erupted across 1,000 worlds, and Amber just smiled, that same smile that had started everything. Later, Vortan asked her how she had known it would work, and she admitted that she had not known for certain. But she believed that when people worked together, they could accomplish anything. The Federation Council awarded her their highest honor, and dozens of species offered her positions of power and wealth. She declined them all and said she just wanted to go home and see her family. But before she left, Whisper Song told her something that would be recorded in the histories of every species. She said that humans, and especially human females like Amber, possessed something that most species had lost over millennia of evolution and conflict. They possessed the ability to make others want to be better and to believe in possibilities that seemed impossible. Amber Rodriguez returned to Earth, but her legend spread across the galaxy. Young beings from countless species grew up hearing stories about the human woman.